Hi, it's Rick from For Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I gotta tell you the story from when I was a teenager at Circle Square Ranch. There was this one night while Circle Square Ranch is a camp where kids will come and spend the summer there, a week out of the summer. And then me as a teenager, I was there as a staff, as a counselor for the kids with a bunch of my friends. And this one night while we're at camp in one of the off nights, so the kids go home on Saturday morning, and Saturday night there are no kids, it's just us teenagers there, so we pitched some tents. And while we were camping, a car drives through our large property and pulls beside a set of trees. And a woman wearing a cloak, a dark cloak, gets out of the car. And this is like 1 a.m., 2 a.m. She gets out of the car and she walks into the trees, and the car turns around and drives off the property. And we just thought that was so bizarre. And she never came back out. And so that's all that a group of teenagers need to see for all of the ideas to come out. And so then there was this whole big thing around the cloak lady, and lots of stories around the cloak lady. And we used to scare each other by telling tales about the cloak lady. And the thing just blew up to the point where we animated this and we embellished this story so much that it actually started scaring some of the staff, some of the girl staff, to the point where they would not go near the woods where the event happened. It was so crazy how the story kind of blew up, and now there is legitimate fear that people are feeling around this one concept. One summer I was just curious, like, come on, there's got to be something back there. And so I trekked through the woods, and I actually did find this just way off the property. I kept on going. I did actually find this big broken down cabin, I guess, maybe a shack, where it looked like some people hung out from time to time. And so it's possible that somebody was using our property just as a shortcut to get to this old broken down cabin that some people went to sometimes. But the story was embellished so much, and it stuck around for years and caused fear. How about you? Do you have any bizarre stories that have stuck with your friends group, school, camp, family, culture, whatever, that persist today and still causes some fear? But it's mostly all in the head, right? It's a head kind of fear. It's not a real kind of fear. If you're watching with someone, please pause the video and share that bizarre story and how it affected you and the people around you. This video is based on my interpretation of Mark chapter 14, verses 17 to 21. As we're making our way closer to Good Friday and Resurrection Sunday, I'm going to be looking at the story leading up to the cross a little more. This is the moment in the Gospel of Mark when Jesus announces that he knows that one of his friends, one of the disciples, will betray him to the cross. The cross is coming soon for him, and it's going to begin with the betrayal of one of his friends. While we're looking at the story, I would like us to see how Jesus processes this information and how different it is from the way that we tend to process negative and scary events. And I want to talk a little bit about what we do sometimes to over-accommodate, how we overgeneralize and work ourselves up into a frenzy to change our beliefs and keep ourselves in this scared mode. Mark chapter 14, verses 17 to 21. In the evening, Jesus arrived with the 12. As they were at the table eating, Jesus said, "I tell you the truth. One of you eating with me here will betray me." Greatly distressed, each one asked in turn, "Am I the one?" He replied, "It is one of you 12 who is eating from this bowl with me. For the Son of Man must die, as the scriptures declared long ago."
Oh, hello. What type of smoothie would you like?
Kiwi, please.
Coming right up. Okay, here you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, hey, have you watched the For Community video yet?
No.
Make sure you look in the background for all the cool characters. Oh, and don't forget to watch this week's episode of Connect HQ.
Okay.
Instead of just a point to make, I've got a question that I would like you to ask yourself around the topic today. Are you over-accommodating? When negative and scary events happen to us. I mean, events that are kind of jarring, shocking. We can choose to do something that's really unhealthy for us. We can choose to over-accommodate. Not sure if it's a choice so much or if it's just what we do because the fear center of our brain is activated. It means that we overgeneralize this new learning that we've had through this negative event to the extreme, and we create new beliefs that are really disruptive to how we live our life. For example, with my cloak lady story, some of the girls became so afraid that they began to start believing some of the stories, and they would never go into the woods. They would never go near the location where the car came through. They wouldn't want to walk outside at night anywhere near that location. I mean, some of that's probably okay. Nobody should be walking at night in the woods. But the thing is that it changed their belief system, and to the point where they were so afraid that they were doing things to make accommodations never to approach the scary zone. Let me give you another example about how this kind of plays out. Maybe you go to school or work and you find out that someone said something bad about you. Then suddenly you start feeling that everyone is saying bad things about you. And suddenly you believe that everyone in your school or everyone in your office is just saying negative things about you. And suddenly now your belief has gotten to the point that you are afraid to go back to school or go back to your office because everyone believes this lie about you and no one really knows the real you. And you're sad and you're lonely and you begin to think bad thoughts of all those people and also bad thoughts about yourself. And you begin to say stuff like, maybe if I just did this thing different, it would turn out differently. Maybe if it's all my fault. We overgeneralize and we over-accommodate and we start to believe things that aren't true. When something bad happens, we can sometimes overgeneralize and jump to false conclusions and thoughts that are horrible, and we can't let them go, and we get stuck, and we live in that hurt for a long time. While Jesus is on his way to the cross, there is a big negative event that's coming up, and he knows about it. We're not sure how it is, but Jesus knows that Judas is planning to betray him. Look at how calm this guy is in the text. He's like Iceman. He's unflappable. He's unflinching. He's playing it cool. He is solid as a rock. I'd like to look at this and just take two small parts out of the story so we can have a better understanding around negative events and how to prevent ourselves from overgeneralizing so that we don't change our beliefs and actually start to hurt ourselves with the thoughts that we create. First, let's just state the obvious. Negative things happen. The text says, I tell you the truth, one of you eating with me here will betray me. That initial illustration about the cloak lady story, that's pretty odd. I mean, stuff like that rarely happens, and when it does, it sticks in our memory because it's pretty odd. But here's what's not odd. Negative things are not odd. Negative things happen all the time. Bad things happen. It's what they do. There's pain, there's sadness, there's stress, there's worry, there's all of the emotions. Maybe not all of the emotions at the same time, but maybe a bunch of emotions all together, though. Negative things happen. Jesus is sitting around a dining room table, sort of, having dinner with his friends, his disciples, and he shares with them something that he knows. He knows that one of them will strike a deal with the people who are trying to kill him, and those will be the Pharisees. And that deal will end with Jesus being sent on his way to the cross. Now, this is a whole lot different than what you and I may experience. I mean, the whole reason Jesus came to earth was to serve and to die. This negative event was prophesied in the Old Testament hundreds of years before this actual event. I mean, even thousands, if we're talking about Genesis 3:15, he knew and we knew that Jesus was coming and that he'd come to serve and come to die based on what we read in the Old Testament. However, what's not different is the idea that negative things really happen, regardless of how well you live, regardless of how perfect you are, regardless of how good you are. Bad things will happen. Bad things don't happen to you because you're bad. Bad things don't happen to you because you're good. Bad things just happen. Actually, in Matthew chapter 5:45, We read the sun shines on the good and the bad, and the rain falls on the good and the bad. The happenstance of good things and bad things aren't about how good or bad you are. They're not about your behavior. Sometimes bad things just happen. However, sometimes when something bad happens to us, we want to catastrophize and we want to take all of the blame. We can overgeneralize to the point where we can say it is all my fault. Nah, bad things just happen sometimes. Sometimes they happen just because they happen. Not everything is your fault. Not everything is within your control to change or to prevent something from happening. Our own disruptive beliefs can get us stuck and feeling absolutely deflated when we fret about things that are completely out of our control. Jesus knew that the cross was coming. This negative event is what needed to happen to change the world and to give us hope and to allow us to become friends with God again and Jesus' followers. He traded his life for ours. It wasn't his fault that a negative event happened to him. He didn't over-accommodate. He didn't fall into self-blame and shame. You also don't need to over-accommodate and fall into self-blame and shame. So heads up, bad things happen. We don't need to create a new set of beliefs around a single negative event. We don't need to question who we are or what the world is over a single negative event. A single negative event is just that. It is a single negative event, probably not to be repeated. And here is the good news. Here's the second point. You still have a future. The text says the Son of Man must die, as the scriptures declared long ago. Jesus came to die, and that really sucked for him. I mean, it's not like God's having a celebration about this, but it was God's plan all along. Someone in Jesus' friend group was going to betray him, but it's okay because Jesus and all of us still have a future. One of the things that we can do when we're over-accommodating, when we're overgeneralizing, when bad things happen to us, is we can get trapped in thoughts on the past. We ruminate about all the stuff that's behind us, and when we do that, we can't see what's in front of us, what's ahead of us, all the good stuff that's about to come our way. Jesus doesn't ruminate. He's been rejected so much. The Pharisees are plotting against him to kill him. One of his friends is going to betray him, and he still doesn't ruminate. If he did, he may have missed what was right ahead of him, which means he'd miss what was ahead of you too. Jesus knew he had a future, and I wonder if you know that you also have a future. Bad things happen all the time to everyone. That's not unusual. What is unusual is that those bad things prevent the future from coming. Things may have changed, but you still have a future. The cross was a really bad event for Jesus, and it led to his resurrection and eternity. The bad things that you face may be really, really big, and they may be a really bad event too. But what's your resurrection look like? If you're a Jesus follower, you've got a lot of hope here. We know that with every death comes a resurrection. That's the hope that we have as Christians. If we get knocked down, we can get up again. If not in this life, then certainly in eternity. We have a lot of hope as Jesus followers. Your bad event doesn't prevent you from having a future. However, overgeneralizing to the point of over-accommodating is going to blind you to it. Hold on to the hope that you have in Jesus. And if you can't get your head out of the past and stop ruminating, then maybe it's time to see a psychotherapist. You still have a good future. You've still got some place that you're moving toward. Jesus was betrayed. He was crucified. Then he rose again. He did that so that you can have a future. You can have a future right here and right now with God, and you can have an eternity with him too. So let me end by asking you, are you over-accommodating? Have you, at any point, had some kind of negative event happen to you? And are you overgeneralizing to the point where you have created some beliefs that are actually hurting you? You now believe that you are a bad person or the world is a bad place just because a negative event happened. Let me encourage you by sharing you still have a future. Don't miss the wonderful future that's ahead of you. Don't miss the hope that you've been given by Jesus' death and his resurrection. Because of Jesus' death and resurrection, because of the cross and the empty tomb, you have a wonderful future. You have a wonderful moment ahead of you as you're a Jesus follower, because God loves you so much. You have a wonderful future walking with God now and toward eternity. Okay, that's it from me to you for now. Would you please like? Would you please share? Would you please subscribe? Also, would you please ask for the link? This is what we're going to be talking about this Sunday. If you'd like to contribute, you can find the link to contribute down in the show notes for community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. See you next time.